Well, for the next few minutes, I'm just going to kind of set the stage about what we're going to be talking about for the next 30 minutes. We're going to be talking about data strategy, and joining me is someone from Thames Water. So my name is Tina Diamond. I am the Data and AI Director at Microsoft, and joining me, it was going to be a panel, but it's turned into a fireside chat. I'm nervous and excited. I'm nervously excited to be here. And joining me is John Regan, who's Head of Innovation at Thames Water. He's the expert, so less pressure on me in a moment, more pressure on him to help bring this to life. I'm going to be more focused rather than the tech, so those of you expecting to talk tech, architecture, boxes on a page, probably not going to cover this, but we will be covering it at 3 o'clock with our analytics team that'll go much more technical detail, or speak to any of the folks at the Microsoft stand. But we're going to be talking about culture, capability, skills, focusing and hopefully giving you a few nuggets to think about, reflect, and to see if any of these, when you are either doing your data strategy or implementing your data strategy, will help you when you think about it. I hope that the impact of this discussion will provide a little bit more clarity. If so, then we've done what we've said on the tin. Ultimately, if this resonates with you, we've done what we've hopefully achieved, especially from what Thames Water will help bring to life. And for those of you looking for a little bit, if none of this resonates for you, hopefully you could join us at the stand for a little bit of a discussion, and I'd love to hear your perspectives. The next few minutes, again, we'll be setting up what we mean and hopefully leading into bringing to life what someone who's done it before can tell you a little bit more. Hopefully it's downhill from here. And I just wanted to start off with what I think is a mission that Microsoft's been driving, to be inherently inclusive, empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. For me, that's a bold statement, and it connects back for me with how I've been experiencing the Microsoft culture, because it comes from top down with a vision that we all are super passionate about, and then it translates into how we can also then help our customers achieve more with what we can help them do, at least from my context in Azure and data and analytics. I think what's also important to kind of preface is the three trends that I think we'll probably all recognize for us. It's the hybrid workplace, which I don't think I'm ever going to go back to 5 days in the office. I think hybrid's here to stay, and actually we're all learning how to make it even enhance our lives even more and more with a work-life balance. The hyper-connected business is also becoming more and more prevalent, and protect everything. I think we're all seeing that security is at the heart of what we do. Bit of an overused statement, but I still think it rings true, because underpinning intensity is data. And I don't think I could say data is the fuel, because I think for me that gets a little bit, but data is at the heart of everything that we need to do. But data isn't useful unless we know how to think about how it can really be impactful and bring value to what we're trying to do. And that's hopefully what the discussion in a moment is going to help bring to life. So when I work with customers, I try to simplify everything I do, and the formula that I help and trying to articulate all of the leaders that are trying to look at data strategy, try to understand what it is that they need to do to leverage their data, and it's simple. Data strategy equals data culture plus data capabilities. If those aren't clear, assessed, and understood, you don't have the structure to bring that all, to do what you can do from the most amazing and awesome data platform. You could have the most technically advanced platform, but if the culture, the business, the organization isn't aligned, you won't have user adoption. And for me, that's a testament of success. So I'm going to join my friend John and hopefully bring to life some of the questions. So I'll keep this. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Grace?
I think I'm supposed to hold this and my tablet.
Well done.
So let's see if I can triple. It's going to log me on, and I've got my questions written down because there are many questions. And what I want to try and hopefully do is bring to life what you've done at Thames Water, because I always think the technology side it's not easy, but it's easier than probably looking at the big picture and taking your whole organization, especially in a regulated space, on a journey. So hopefully you'll help me understand, and hopefully we'll be able to bring a few nuggets to the audience to give them a little bit to think about. So thank you again for joining me, John. So I'm going to start off with culture and capabilities. So at Thames Water, what did you find were the main challenges that you were looking to solve that helped shape your data strategy?
Okay, good morning everybody. Good afternoon. So I would say the three key challenges that we had to fix, and what I think have been success factors in making our transformation successful, or the start of it successful, because this is a journey we're still on. So there's three P's to this. So the first one is around product working. So we had quite traditional ways of working in our IT organization, and we had to find a new way of delivering. So product working, delivering agile, working on small increments, and being able to demonstrate progress and value quickly, really important. And also the fact that brought with it a high level of, I would say, customer focus and customer engagement. So an end user sat in the dev team working with us. The second thing that I think has been a success factor for us is about taking a platform approach. So in everything we've done, we've tried to build things in a way that means they can be reused in the future. So for a lot of years as an organization and as an IT organization, we tried to sell a data platform and tried to convince ourselves it was a good thing to do, but it was going to be a massive investment. The paybacks weren't that obvious. People weren't that interested. So what we found actually did work is what people were really interested in was improving some business outcomes, getting a new app that might predict where I'm going to get a leak, a new algorithm that's going to predict where a blockage is going to be. So people were really interested in these. Now, the way we've built those outcomes and built the products that serve those outcomes is on a platform, and we've built those products with a platform mindset. So everything is reusable, and that means that as we start to scale, the platform can scale, but also we get all the benefits of reuse in the future. And then the third thing that's been important for us in the transformation is around partnership. So having the right companies to work with us on our transformation, and people who wanted to help us co-create, or people who want to co-create value. So they weren't trying to sell us an off-the-shelf solution. They weren't trying to bring in a new product. They were happy to work with us and let us build our own capability and build our own intellectual property.
Thank you, John. That's really like singing my song, because I just experienced that, people I think have all the intention in the world of like coming out with some really exciting ways of like thinking about data platforms, thinking about technology and how to bring it to the organization. But I think one thing that I've seen that if you don't align it, doesn't happen, and that's bringing the business with you. How were you able to inspire, kind of help the business see that what you were doing wasn't just another project, that it was going to be built to help them to do their job better?
So I guess nobody on the C-suite wanted a data platform. You know, the digital director did, but none of the rest of the execs did. They wanted business performance. They want to improve their outcomes. Now, a data platform is a means to an end. So, you know, we had to get them excited about the outcomes and what we can deliver. We were really fortunate. We had both an ops director and a digital director who shared the same vision, and they worked together really well. So we were able to quite quickly take a use case, get that into our delivery team, and then start to build some excitement and engagement. And then just things like regularly showing value, you know, things like show and tells were transformational for us. So different for people to come along every 2 or 3 weeks and say, oh look, you've got this thing now, and wouldn't it be good if it did X, Y, Z? And then next week when they come, it can do X and Y, but Z's still in the backlog. So that just built momentum. And I guess the other thing that helped us was we kind of set ourselves up in the IT organization, but a little bit different to it. So we gave it a bit of a name. We called it a data factory. We encouraged people to dress a bit differently, to act a bit differently. You know, I was saying to you earlier that I had to have a word with one of the companies who were working with us and say, stop coming in your suits and a tie, because you're just turning people off. They're not listening. You know, we've got to be seen to be different. We've got to work differently. We've got to act differently. And actually that then can become quite a visible change that people are sort of starts to build a bit of interest in, even if initially some of that interest isn't always positive.
That brings it back to culture. It sounds like you were modeling a lot of what you wanted others to be and coming from the top down. How did you, was it intentionally that you were thinking about what you wanted, that culture around data and becoming data driven, which is an overused buzzword, but when you find it in a context where it does actually do what you want, it could be quite powerful. So were you quite intentional, or was it kind of it organically happened? I mean, what was the journey like?
Yeah. So I think it's definitely been organic, and the whole thing has been test and learn. So everything has been iterative, you know, and everything we've done has been, you know, we've made loads and loads of mistakes and things have gone wrong, but we've made them quickly and picked ourselves up and got on with it. So yeah, I think for me, the becoming data driven. So I think the thing that helped our C-suite and I suppose our sponsors engage with that was, you know, the reason we started this journey was we had a whole bunch of operational failures, visible to public, regulators really interested, loads of customer impact, lots of cost to the organisation. Now, one of the things that was happening in our operational instance as an incident was one person could only make a decision based on 10 years of experience, or because they'd worked here the last time this had gone wrong. So people didn't think of it as we need to become data driven. They thought of it as we need to stop being so reliant on key individuals and move to a world where maybe we can have repeatable decisions support. And then we started to talk about being data driven. So I think that started to build some interest in people when we could really bring that back to some business problems.
It also sounded like you broke down some of the silos of how you work, the different departments. It sounded like you created more of an openness amongst the business and amongst the other areas. And again, I mean, commercial companies are tough enough to kind of bring on this journey, but a regulated one is even more. So how did you, I have like so many, how did you also start to help people around the people, process, tech, and then data?
So when we started our show and tells, we would have 40 people around a table and then people on Teams. Even this was all in person at the time. You know, it's pre flexible working. So we had loads of people, and we would get our release management team, who had absolutely nothing to do with it, to come and watch, or people from procurement or finance. So we actually sort of encouraged, forced quite a lot of engagement from people and brought them into it, so they could, even though they might not be directly impacted to it, they're starting to think, hang on, how's this going to change my world? Now there's heaps of stuff we've still got to go through there, you know, how we procure things, how we finance things, but yeah, I think that certainly helped us. And the biggest barriers and hurdles that we've overcome culturally, I think, have been in our digital organisation. You know, our security teams, our release management teams, our ops teams, who suddenly we've got DevOps teams. They're sort of wondering what this means for them. So I think it was really important that we focused on getting the change right in the digital IT organisation. In terms of our customers, you know, the product owners, the people who've come into the organisation to work with us, you know, frankly, they very quickly started to get excited by this because of the pace and because of the fact that somebody was really listening to them on a regular basis.
And I would be really keen to understand what were some of the, like, what do you mean by quick wins, and what did it mean to the business to start seeing those quick wins?
So we quite quickly realised that we had to get things like wireframes and had an ability to show a basic model working, and we would show people how the code worked. We would show people this is what it's doing, therefore this is what it's going to look like for an end user. So I think making it very tangible, making it very measurable was absolutely key in that. And then, you know, and also creating even things like creating short videos. Look, here's a little 1-minute demo of how this app or this product's going to work, and here's something you can share, and you can sort of ultimately try and make people proud of the work that we're doing.
Amazing. So how important is now capability and skills? Because you said that, well, my understanding is you have done this with partners, but probably not in a traditional way. And it sounds like you've taken Thames on that journey, and not everybody's going to have the skill set to be able to do everything from day one. How did you kind of start to look, and, you know, it sounds like you got so many people excited, but then what is it about being able to do something on the other end?
Yeah. So we've been growing our own capabilities. We've grown our own data science team. We're now starting to grow our data engineering capabilities. Actually, probably should have done that the other way around. That was a bit of a lesson we learned. We should have been focusing on increasing data engineer capabilities. You can kind of get a bit carried away with, we need loads of data scientists. Okay, so that's definitely a learning point we've made. And some of those are new skills and new capabilities, but actually we've also been able to bring in people from reporting and analytical teams around the organisation. They've been able to reskill. Some of our delivery leads are what we call a scrum master, I suppose, would be an ex-project manager. So there's certain roles where I think there's a clear path of them to transform and people to come on the journey with you, as well as also having, look, there's just some new roles that you've got to recruit. And we're a utility company based in Reading, so Microsoft right near us, right? So we're advertising for a data engineer. Microsoft are advertising for a data engineer. Now, what's the difference? You know, there's going to be difference about, you know, if we only talk about things like salary, maybe we're not going to win. But if we can talk about the outcomes we're doing, the awards we've won, what's our broader sort of employee value proposition, we've had to think about how we create that sort of broader view and of the opportunities that we offer.
Amazing. Yeah, I imagine that. Looking at the same model, you know, same role. Yeah, because I think data engineers, to my understanding, are like commanding their salaries, and they're in rare demand. So any plug for data engineers, go get your data engineering qualifications. So from the beginning, when you initially probably even thought about data strategy conceptually, to probably, kind of down the way in implementing what you now see as what your data strategy is, how have you seen, kind of, if you can reflect back, what are the differences in what you thought it would be to what it actually has become?
I think it's probably taking longer than we expected. So yeah, where everyone's on this journey, you know, I think if anyone's got to the end of it, I'd love to meet them. So one of the things that's been important in that is to look, the first things we built were not very quick and were not great, and we had to have sponsors who would kind of stick to it and would keep backing us. So I think, yeah, the pace of change now is it's very quick. We can do, regularly release new features, new code. We can get MVP stood up very quickly. Hasn't always been like that. So the time to get to being able to do things really quickly, I think is something that took a bit longer than we expected. And the overall length of the journey, I think, is quite a ways to get through. And look, as with most companies, or traditional companies, we've got a huge amount of, let's call it, data legacy, grey IT. We've got databases and data warehouses that have been built in different operational areas or different organisational units, because that was all they could do, right? That was the only way they could build reports or get analytics. And actually, initially we found it we found it very difficult to engage those teams and say, look, you need to come into the data platform because this is the future. Now, on day one, there was nothing there that really interested them. Now, we've got to a tipping point where suddenly the amount of data that's in the platform is and the availability of it, and the fact that they won't have to spend time mashing it together from multiple sources, is actually starting to speed that up. But again, I think that's probably taking a little bit longer than we expected. And also the scale of how much data stuff is out there in legacy, and how many people are actually doing data analytics jobs or reporting analytics jobs is quite a surprise when you start to see how much of that is actually happening across the organisation.
Amazing. So one observation I want to share is thank you so much for being so open and transparent about the lessons learned, because I think for me, you set off with a perfect plan. Everybody kind of sees a structure. You have, a 50-page document illustrating everything. You've got your reference architectures, and then you start, and I don't think I've ever seen one data strategy or one project go perfectly to plan. In my lifetime, I'm sure there are, but I haven't been involved. So thank you for being so open about it, because sometimes I see people talk about data strategy and it sounds so awesome, and then I'm like, what went wrong? There had to be something. So thank you for that. Now going on to your journey, one question that I really wanted to understand was, you talked about building data products. For me, it sounds fantastic in kind of concept, but that means you need to get the business involved. Who owns the data? Who's governing the data? How are you going to get access and controls to a point where the folks that want and need access and control can get it in the time that they're now expecting it? They're seeing this data platform being built. They're seeing that things are happening quicker. People are getting things. How is that gone from starting and doing, let's do data products, to we're becoming a data product driven organization? So I think what we've focused on is, so I think for a lot of years we've been sat there going, our data's not very good, we can't use it, who owns the data, who wants to have a conversation about data governance? I start glazing over. So I think we had to start using the data more and getting in action with it before people would start engaging on some of the other topics about data ownership, about data governance. I think what we're moving to now is that is much more embedded into our ways of working. So data quality, for example, is a platform capability. So we understand what we bring into the platform, we understand the transformations, we understand the different levels, bronze, silver, gold, as we start to move that through the platform. But people weren't that interested in data governance and data quality. And it's always been very anecdotal. Our data's not very good. We had even our digital director was telling me recently, they met someone and they were telling our digital director how poor the data was. They'd only been in the company 4 days. So, these stories that exist, the only way that we've found that we can get people to engage in a fact-based discussion and actually start to then take the ownership and take the actions around data quality is by using the data more, by being able to say, look, we're predicting X amount of blockages per month. Great. How do we get to 100%? How do we double this? What can we do? Well, we can improve the data quality, and then people are actually much more engaged with it. So again, it's much more linked to an outcome, and it's linked to something quite tangible. Amazing. So I'm going to shift it and go to the partner ecosystem journey for you. So what did that look like? Because I think you had mentioned when we spoke the other day, you did start the kind of the tried and tested, get a partner who's done this before, and kind of that RFP to the framework, all of that, and then it shifted for you. I mean, one of the things that I, coming from a GSI prior to Microsoft is, how do you do the everybody leave their badges at the door and become a one Thames? So I'd love to know a little bit about that, because that I would think is a bit more intentional rather than organic. Is that?
I think so, yeah. So I think, I don't know quite how we got, again, so the organic decision was, we're not just going to go down our traditional supplier route here, and we would work with all the usual big SIs. And I think early days we had a few teams working in parallel, and we had some from a traditional SI and some from some smaller new sort of more, let's say, more digital or bespoke companies, boutique companies. And we just found that we didn't just get slideware, we got delivery. We didn't get a sales manager, a project manager, all these old-fashioned roles put into proposals. So it became quite obvious that they couldn't really do what they said they could do, or they were layering on complexity. I think in terms of the that sort of one team ethos, and we've now got teams that have fully formed in lockdown, right? I think it's we've had to just put a lot of trust in the whole agile, daily stand-ups, regularly retrospectives, because we haven't had a lot of face-to-face time, and I think I would say that has probably helped us build good teams, really.
Well, it sounds like you've also been organically, intentionally, you've been able to shape the culture. You've had stakeholders buy in, champions that supported you along the way, and modeling all of that top down. I think we're almost out of time, so I'm leaving my last question. Hopefully we'll have time for the response. What would you give anybody in this audience, or anyone who is looking to embark on a data strategy? What would be your top lessons learned from your experience? And I realize it's not been a month, a year, it's been multi-year, prior COVID, in what you would kind of give them, warts and all.
Yeah. So I think for me it was try to get into action or into delivery fairly quickly. So how can you find something that people are so excited and engaged by that you can de-risk for them? So look, you're not going to have to invest in this thing for 5 years. You just give us enough money for 3 months, give us enough money for 6 months. Almost, try and make it a no-brainer, which is, again, something we've had to do is, I've had to go to investment committees every 3 months for a thing that took a year, because I had to just build their confidence. So I think for me, it's how do you find something that is going to be exciting, that you can break into small chunks and you can get into delivery quickly. And, if you're writing a 50-page data strategy, for me, that wasn't what did it for us, because we had to build confidence and earn credibility. And the only way we could do that was by delivering stuff.
So I think that is all my questions for now. But John, thank you so much. Absolute pleasure. I feel like you and I could talk about this for the next couple of hours, and probably learn so much from you. One of the team that was on the call was saying he learned more from you in 30 minutes than he has in 4 months around data strategy. So thank you. So hopefully this audience has learned a little bit more than they did before, and thank you all for coming, and appreciate. Any questions will be at the Microsoft stand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.